Now I might as well get on to texturing the can. And the ends I was thinking of doing first from the very beginning. I'll start by creating a new GIMP file. So I will save this PNG as an XCF, which is a GIMP-specific project file. So I might as well just call it Arizona Can 105 ends, for lack of anything better. Now I will add a layer, and I will call the layer Top. And I will open one of my photographs of the original. I can find it here. That looks like it. And I will try to copy it. I've said before that real-world photographs are almost never orthographic. They're almost always in perspective. So I will have to resize it. And another thing I'll do to make things a little easier is I will create some opacity on the top so that it lines up well. And if you watched my other videos, you know that I do this quite often when I'm texturing. So I'll move it into place, and then I will scale it. Scale. See, it's not even a uniform aspect ratio. So I will force it into compliance first. And then actually, I'll go 1,000 pixels, and it's probably wrong, but I can fine-tune it. So let's see how off that is. Yeah, it's considerably so. So transform, scale. I don't know why that's off. 960. And that's more or less the right size. Now, one thing I should add is that the advantage of having scaled the bottom to the same size as the top means that I know that the other texture will be 960 pixels by 960 pixels. Having said that, I double-checked the measurements of the can, and in fact, the top and the bottom are not the same diameter. I knew that earlier, but I just forgot it. If I go to the Arizona Can dimensions, I've actually saved them here. You can see that the diameter of the top rim is 64 millimeters, but the diameter of the can as a whole is 75 millimeters, which is actually the diameter of the bottom, even though the bottom rim is 51 millimeters. So it's actually even smaller than the top rim. But this is still not a bad decision because it makes scaling the bottom texture easier. So I will, in any case, anchor the top texture there. I will create a new layer. This will be the bottom. Again, I'll cut the opacity way down to make lining it up easier. And then I will open my file of the bottom of the can. My scan is really dirty there, but I can get away with that by saying, hey, well, the can is not spotless. You can see there's a little bit of whatever there's, drink or dish soap or whatever on it there. And this aspect ratio will once again be wrong, so I will force it to conform. That looks close enough. Edit, copy. We'll go to the bottom layer. And now scaling it won't be so hard. Scale. 960 by 960. See how this turns out. That might not be perfect in terms of the texture. But let's see how it looks on the actual model. I will anchor this. Well, first of all, I'll zoom in to make sure it's lined up perfectly. If I move it this way a little. Probably close enough. Yeah, neither of them is perfect. Okay, so I will anchor it. I will kill the opacity. Of course, opacity, they say opacity, really what they mean is transparency. Opacity is the opposite of transparency. When I say kill the opacity, I really mean kill the transparency. All right. Save as. Arizona can ends. Replace. And we'll export this as a texture file, which for now we'll keep it in PNG format. Not every game or other application would want you. Actually, I've changed my mind. I just changed my own mind. I will export this as a targa because targas are more common in the real world. So export it without compression. This looks like it might be a little bit off, but we'll see how bad it looks on the model. Might not be so bad, actually. So here we are in Blender. I'm going to go back to the 3D view. And I'm going to save this as 106, following my own advice, which I failed to follow earlier. And this will be the textured version, or at least the first attempt at a textured version. Save as Blender file. Okay. So the ends are already selected. So I can open the first attempt at the texture here. And then we will look at the model. Now you would say, well, they didn't turn up. That is because the textures are not visible. So I'll open the textures here. It doesn't look so bad. I'll go to the object view. And it looks okay. More or less how I intended it. But I do notice, if you look carefully, you can see the little overlap there. So I'll have to fix that. Maybe make it 965 by 965. Bottom, pretty good. That's pretty good. Could be worse. So I will go back to GIMP. Save this. And this will self-correct, as you'll see.